the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have on Thorsten from Tangerine Dream. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
I'm
great.
glad to have you on. I was with Dom, a co-host today, a friend of mine and a keyboard enthusiast. But you are more known in the world of electronics for probably being in Tangerine Dream, but you also do a lot of your own stuff, probably just as much at this point. Um, since COVID, at least it looks like online as far as touring and stuff, right?
Yeah, COVID was a strange thing. So hopefully it doesn't come or repeats itself. But to have kind of 2 years to focusing on the studio work, it's
Yeah,
unbelievable. Normally you're interrupted by live concerts, especially in the summer. That we play a lot of concerts and festivals. It's always on Saturday or Sunday. So we're leaving, and I think I missed the moment where it's could be okay to play with a laptop. um, and so when I'm playing or when Tangerine Dream are playing, they're expecting a modular system, all the synths for many and good reasons because the
right.
sound, and so the gear is always on the road from Thursday to Tuesday, but in the last 2 years we had just time to focusing on recording and composing an album, and it was unbelievable just to came every day in the same situation, same environment, nothing left, nothing just driving around Europe somewhere, to have everything there. All members are here, and yeah, just compose, focusing and care about music without doing some yeah concerts. So I know
Yeah,
it's yeah it's good and bad at the same time. So
right,
but I think we did, yeah, from our perspective,
right.
the best out of it.
I think, I guess my biggest question is when I look at the body of work that you do and then Tangerine does, and then live things, and then also the amount of gear and updates and songwriting and modules, you can get caught in a worm, in a wormhole just on playing with gear and modules, getting a sound that's cool. Then you get the time to figure out, and you play like a billion instruments. You play like what, guitar, keyboards, violin. You play just about everything. So that's like a million instruments. Like to sit down to even write a song, whether it's for yourself or with a band, and then you're also the conductor and the band leader of Tangerine Dream. So I mean, I don't know where you can find the time to do all of that besides just recording.
um when it comes to update, I miss all of the updates.
Yeah,
I think that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Um so it's good. So I spend a lot of time in the studio. So to be honest, maybe I have a very boring life beside of two or three private activities like bicycle or something. I'm just sitting here in the studio and try to make music and try to understand instruments, and I think the idea of our world of electronic music is just sitting there and being there when you're on the right mood and get into the flow and something special happens. So we make music all day, but waiting for the moment where you should press record.
right.
So I just quick question. Now you say, are you recording all the time while you are experimenting in case you kind of catch something and say, oh, wait a second, that little nugget. I mean,
Yeah.
could you take us through how you are doing your composition? Because for me, I have a hard time starting and I'll get stuck. So I would like to hear your thoughts.
We record most of the time, so even we record every concert, and sometimes it's like having nothing after because you have everything. So after the UK tour, I copied all concerts in a row in my Cubase arrangement, and it was one day, 23 hours and 40 minutes, and you have 64 mono tracks. So it took gonna take years if you searching the crackle on one single track inside the project. But no, we have different approaches to composition and creating music. So I think we learned a lot out of the idea of making free music. So we all composing for ourselves and compose together. But at the end of every concert, we play something we call session, because I don't like the term improvisation, because it's have something. As improvisation always sounds a little bit like jazz guys playing every solo, then you, and just playing muscle memory or
Right.
scales. So kind of real time composition maybe is more like what we gonna call it, or session, and to have the best of both worlds. So sometimes we are jamming or doing a session, record everything, but to have it more spot on, sometimes we just play, and then if we have a feeling that it feels right on different levels, so we record maybe 64 tracks, 228 tracks, so something periodic, and then working on it like a composition in a studio environment with all the ideas of have. So if you're jamming, you're with different people. Yes, sometimes limited of doing three chords, because you always stay in the root key, and so we just take some bars from that, and then we create a new part in the studio environment, and then jamming on the next part. And so it's maybe a long process because of this, but it feels good. And then everyone has his own studio. You can edit and add single melodies one, and then we came together and try which one is the best, or maybe use a different sound, or maybe just filter or do effects on it. So sometimes it just happens, and sometimes we have a kind of a concept before what we like to do.
Right.
The best is film, the easiest is film music, because you have to serve the picture, and not but yeah, and the combination of all is probably the most interesting in the end of the day.
You started the band and you were in it for a couple of years, and eventually you ended up taking over as the band leader, and Edgar, when Edgar was there, and kind of the passing of the torch. Can you walk
Mhm.
that process, how it kind of happened as you kind of came in, and then it was kind of put you in
Mhm.
charge of that, and
So I came from a different background, to be honest. So I was a combination of classical music composition student, and doing bands like gothic rock, like the Cure, Fields of Nephilim, Mission, that stuff, and a combination with I loved always progressive rock, like but more phonograph generator or Genesis, King
yeah,
Crimson. Um, so in King Crimson, it's very sequence-based music, if you like. So if you listen to Red, it's all sequences.
hmm
But I only played synths and piano, and so I started playing in a different life, I guess, playing violin in youth orchestras and flute recorder. I played drums in a swing band.
oh wow,
Um, but the guy for foreign affairs in Edgar's office in Berlin was a singer of an gothic metal band called Sepulchre Mentis. It's Latin for kind of the tomb of the mind, something like this. It's Sepulchre Mentis, and he, so he said, okay, well, I was one of three guys. Who was sent to Vienna to Edgar's studio just to
okay,
met him. So there were several phone calls, which I find strange then, because I was young. So this was 19 years ago
oh
now.
wow,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing this 19 years now, and I was very young, and Edgar was around 50, 51. Well, it was old to me. Yeah. No, I'm 54 by myself. 45, sorry. Um, but I think it's so we he knows that we gonna the guy who's joined the environment there has to spend a lot of time with him. So you have to yeah, and talking and getting along with each other is maybe as important as being the musician he was looking
Absolutely.
for.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so we talked about music. So on the other hand, was very detailed but like grounded things that I have to do. So that it was clear that I have to use Cubase. Because it's a good thing and a benefit if everyone's using the same platform.
Well, yeah.
Um, and some if I knew some samplers, there was Giga sampler these days, and kind of Halion, and if I knew, since to be honest, I never played a modular system before. So okay, but progressive rock, but goth rock. But I was young, so I had some Korg synths, some Roland synths, but more, the normal ones that I could afford. Yeah, early 20s. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we spent a lot of time in Vienna, and the idea was just to test it for 14 days. And maybe it's not the best part in history of Tangerine Dream. This was time of the Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy album, and it was planned to do with the orchestra. And because I had or have a classical background, I was able to just write down scores and notes. So it was not only playing, and I just okay, I can do the string arrangements. I will. So yeah, and this was 19 years ago. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
I never did something as long as this, to be honest. Yeah,
I mean,
That's
the
incredible.
band is bigger than one person at this point. I mean, was
absolutely. The concept
that
is
the point?
stronger.
Right. Is that the point where he wanted to hand it on to you to take on when he couldn't do it? Is it going to be like a continuing thing, like you'll pass it on, like it'll be
Mhm.
Tangerine Dream will be
So,
just ongoing?
um, yeah, I think it was even a Peter Baumann quote that the idea of Tangerine Dream is stronger than a single person,
Hmm.
and the concept, and there are even kind of scales and rules for the music. And maybe this is one of the good things. Some would call bad, but I never programmed a sequencer, a step sequencer before, or a modular system. But I spent always more than half a year at Edgar's studio. It was a big house and several houses together in Austria and Germany, and learned everything about step sequencers and modular system from Edgar himself. So I had a good bass player. So I was never in the position, or was never my idea to program a bass. So all the bass sequences are strictly learned from the master himself, if you like. And he was definitely the master of sequencing, um, and finding melodies inside the sequence, and some rules like what's the function of fourths and sevenths in intervals. You can adapt this on doing multi-rhythm sequences
Wow.
on many levels, and it was a kind of, and the good thing and the bad thing, Edgar is a kind of the prototype of a boss, if you like. So well, a little bit grumpy, but always um, had a very strong
Vision.
and crystallized vision of what he wanted, and mostly what he didn't want inside the music, which is absolutely great. So I'm always stacking pads and pads and melodies and another sound and another sound, and Edgar came and just delete all the stuff, or we don't need this half a minute, and probably it was making the music much better. And kind of have to learn that it's fine to stack 6 or 7 lead lines
Right.
always on top, on top, on top, but it's kind of, it's more brave to use one strong sound and believe in that sound
Like like
in the
really strong
moment.
self editing.
Yeah,
Like you're really editing yourself,
yeah.
so you know when to stop.
I
Yeah.
think it would be easy to get into the trap of, oh my gosh, I've got this wonderful studio. I've got so many sounds. I want to layer the sounds. Oh, this it's getting only more epic if I add this.
Yeah.
I could completely see that, especially as a equipment guy that I tend to be. I'd be like, oh, we got to add some more. We got to,
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's amazing to hear that you need to let
Yep.
it. I've always heard you need to let the music breathe and be itself. So
Yeah.
that's interesting to hear that from you.
Absolutely, but 20 years ago, 19 years ago was unbelievable. So there were so many synths I always saw on old Genesis videos and all prospects. Are like, okay, that's a real Prophet 5, and that's a 73 Minimoog, and so come on, as a Jupiter 6 and 8 and 4,
Oh
was
yeah,
unbelievable for me. So and it what was hard to get the sounds I wanted to hear from them in the first second. So normally, I had the like the Korg Z1, M1, all the Roland stuff, Wave Station. What was normal at the time? And but you have to really work with a Jupiter 8. Else it would sound always like the Toto Press, which is probably not so bad, but um, you know what I mean.
yes, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. So I guess what you're saying is that a lot of your sounds you started to delve deeper than just the presets because you couldn't just be, just relying on what was there in front of you. So I guess you became quite the sound designer as well, and especially with that time period where those romplers were really you were starting to really get into that. So that's interesting. And if you can expand on that, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So we always used many hardware effects and maybe filter bank and always equalizers on mixing real mixing desks to form it. But I think even equalizing and compression and all the effects are a part of the sound design too, is a part of the sound too in electronic music.
That's very interesting because I get as a neophyte that I claim to be as myself, I it's all I can do to handle the synthesizers. Never mind now taking it to the next level and really starting to tweak them with the effects and that's interesting to hear.
With the sound over the years, you guys have changed from originally going krautrock, and then like the band has changed with different sounds. Is it just more of a linear, malleable sound where you're not planning on being any sound? It's just what you guys write and comes out of you at the time, or is there a plan where you're going with the music? You know what I'm saying?
So Edgar had plans for everything. So sound concepts and ideas how things should evolve, should have kind of an dynamic or even artistically envelope. And all people that joined and or left Tangerine had a big impact. So the first 3 years from '67. Um, so I think the founding members were, beside Edgar, were left 3 months ago. So I think most of the founding members were gone in '68. But
Yeah.
there's very few audio documents or sound documents of these times. First was real album was a meditation, electronic meditation with Klaus Schulz on drums and Konrad Schlitzer. Um, and the left after the first album. Yeah, and then you have Centauri and then Zeit, and with Zeit, Franke and Baumann came in, and I think both have had a huge impact of the music. And but even as Baumann left 6 years ago as a sorcerer, um, with the drums and Jolliffe on flute and saxophone and vocals, it had an unbelievable impact. 2 years later, Schmerling. I think Schmerling was a little bit more synth poppy in a good way. He adds more rememberable melodies in kind of a periodic way that you can remember. Not kind of. I think Baumann and Edgar was more playing kind of motives. Yeah, that didn't follow a kind of periodic rule that came off 32 tracks, 64, whatever. And Schmeling was more kind of a pop structured idea melody, like Logos and yeah, Logos. There are different tracks called called
Right.
Logos, but both would fit in the description, or White Eagle. Um, then Hustling was a little bit more funky, I guess. So it's okay. So if you came after the one that left, you have always to play the they parts on concerts. So I have to learn all all the parts, and I'm not so funky. So the Paul Hustlinger was the most hard parts to learn because it was complete different background. So I never listened to be honest, to soul music or funk. Also, soul is fine.
Right.
Songs of Key of Life, Stevie Wonder, and all the stuff is unbelievably good. But I was not so into the funk keyboarder thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand. So
Definitely
it
adds
really,
another layer of complexity. I'm sorry, go ahead,
so
John.
I'm no saying. So, so it sounds like each member as they come and go, they bring their own
Yeah.
flavor in.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you're trying to carry the overall sound as you add your own in. So each time it gets higher and higher
Hmm.
stacked. But the history, you guys, is like what, over 100 albums now from and all different types of music. Really,
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
different,
And
almost like different periods of
mhm.
music.
Yeah. So I think the problem would be if you listen all plus album every 8 years. So probably it wouldn't sound like the same band. Sometimes, also, yeah, but maybe it's hard. So, but if you listen all the albums in between, you're finding the red line and maybe the
Right.
way why it's led to that change of music or that change of atmosphere. So you can find a line from meditation to tangram, but you probably had to listen to Zeit, Fedra, and Stratosphere, because Stratosphere was always based on melodies first time, which maybe it's more on Tangram. But if you're skipping three of them or two of them, you probably won't find the red line in between.
Right. When I do that on iTunes or something, I'll go 10, 20 albums between, like, the big
Yeah,
time period. It sounds like
sure.
totally
Yeah,
different, which as a fan of music, it's really fun because it's still the same members, the same creating force doing something totally different. And if you're to like
yeah.
one thing, you can listen to the same album over and over again. So having something kind of different is fun, you know. But how do you do the difference of your songwriting now and doing your own stuff and Tangerine? How is it different when you're trying to do your, where's the line drawn?
So it's clear from the first moment, um, because of different scales. So we have very really fixed scales in Tangerine Dream music,
Mhm.
um, and sometimes it's kind of a free feeling to compose my own stuff because I could do all the things that probably won't fit in it. So nowadays I have also kind of a post rock background with a lot of bands like Godspeed Your Black Emperor, Sigur Rós,
Mhm.
and Mogwai, and I really love the kind of tremolo guitars. I did this sometimes in Tangerine Dream, but it works okay. Yeah, to be honest. So I think it's just honest, um, and so it's fine to have another part where I
Outlet.
can play all that stuff or more dark stuff or even more melody esque stuff if you like. So, but it's always clear that now we're working Tangent Dream, a new track or yeah, or just try to find a new thing to adapt in the next part. So like exploring things. No, not every hour leads to a new track. Sometimes only to explore a new sound or
Right.
a new idea how you can use something inside your studio environment.
When you're doing, this would seem to be crazy for me. Like when you're doing like playing on touring, how are you playing on the songs? Your song, what are you going to do for performance? Is it
Um, some tracks are kind of fixed in the structure. So
Right.
like that's the more Schmeling esque song. So you have Floggers, you have White Eagle. So I think there's no reason to change the structure every day. Um, okay, but there's always also Schmeling sequencer based tracks like Love and Real Train or Sorcerer. Um, are kind of freeform even live, which annoys our visual and lightning guy because they have to. So even our visuals are live created because we have sometimes we have even not fixed lengths inside tracks that we
Right.
play every day. But sometimes it's 1 minute longer, sometimes it's 5 minutes longer. Um, it's not easy, so we have even live visuals
That's incredible.
to it.
So you don't have a sequencer triggering a visual, so you know you're always going to hit that same spot. It's obviously
I tried this. We are experimenting with this with the Inside, but we didn't use it to this point. So there are the VZ synth, and but it doesn't look as well as we'd like to. But this is the idea for the next sessions, because on sessions. The visual guy and the person and the lighting person have no chance to get, for example, the first kick because they can't know it because it's music that's created in the moment. And there are some MIDI triggered visual ideas that they can do with Ableton Live, which I'm using live. For beats, but we didn't use it this time. So normally I have my modeler system with me, the the Voyager, a Memotron, which is an a hard disk Mellotron. That's because of memory, like a memory card.
Gotcha.
Is
Yeah.
Memotron,
Yeah.
and the new Waldorf Quantum. Because you can load samples in it. And another thing, I'm doing sometimes sound design for companies, and so I'm in the sometimes so good position that I have, I think, 8 times sample ROM in it because I'm designed songs for the factory presets,
Understood.
and
Awesome.
so I can load so many sounds. I think it's 8. I'm not sure. It's 32 gigabytes something, and a sample ROM in it. Yeah, and I think
That's
normal
incredible.
are two.
Yeah.
Two are big enough, but so I've all my synths, which is okay. It's kind of a snapshot of I know this of synths, so it doesn't. It's not lively and it's not so. It's only you start it and it's always modulated as the same milliseconds because those are samples. But for live, it's as close as you can get, and I'm normally not a big fan of emulations and plugins on stage. I tried it all the time, but sometimes even on iPads and for rhythms it's fine, but I don't see the idea for me to use a mini Moog as a plugin on stage because for many reasons. So if something happens with my hardware, I have a rough clue why it doesn't work on sometimes laptops. It's crazy.
I can
So
imagine that. I could
you can hear.
go ahead.
I'm looking at your schedule for the year and on your site. So there's the Tangerine Dream site, and then you have your own website too, which is chock
Yeah,
full of information. So it's like
yeah.
you're doing some stuff, and then you're doing some live gigs as you, and then you're doing some Tangerine gigs, and then you have some like live streaming. Is it behind the sessions or behind?
Behind closed doors. Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Could
yeah.
you explain that? To,
So behind the stores was kind of blind Activision during the first months of COVID. So so it was if I'm kind of close to panicking because I wasn't sure how it's gonna work. I'm not the guy who's sitting in home and say, okay, well, let's see. Hopefully everything gets well after it. So um, I I booked venues for 2 weeks every day, a big concert hall, and invited all my friends to play sessions with me that we can stream. Yeah, so that's so it's blind activism, so activisten, you know what I mean. So
Yes.
after 2 or 3 years, you have a rough overview if it was good or not.
Hmm.
But it worked quite well. So it was fine and an opportunity you probably would never have in a normal situation because everyone was at home.
Right.
So so there was great people like Markus Reuter Stickman with the band was Tony Levin and Schiller, which is unbelievably big in Germany. Um, all the great guys. So, but okay, it was easy to play with Toshiko and Paul because I'm using to do this every day. Well, also Lul, which he's from Ashra Temple and Agitation Free,
Hmm.
and good friends like Harald Großkopf. It was I think we recorded 30 something sessions and we streamed 25 or 26 of them. So because not every session worked, but it's fine. So some people, if it's not it's a good or bad musician, some people just are not used to playing music in the moment for more than 30 or 40, 50 minutes. So if
Right.
it's okay. So if you came from a kind of pop context, you probably never listen to a song that's longer than 20 minutes. So
Right.
even Genesis, so some maybe you know Sabbath Ready, but even if you listen to some Pink Floyd stuff, normally people are saying no, Pink Floyd is long tracks, it's 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's 40 minutes
Yeah. Yeah.
if we make music.
Yeah. That's quite the evolution over time of the music. It's just and in order to keep it sounding fresh, but yet keeping the same continuity with the song, that I can
Yeah,
imagine that is truly
yeah,
an effort.
yeah. And the idea was to just agree on a root key and a tempo, and then play and see what happens. And it worked quite well. And the idea was to the setup was in the audience room and always have an empty stage behind us in the frontal camera. And it was fine. And we did this 2 seasons. We recorded a third season, but didn't release this to this point because it doesn't felt right in the summer. So
It sounds like you got together with a whole bunch of your friends and had a great time. So that's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and then it all turns out good. So that sounds amazing.
What
absolutely.
What is the release schedule now? Because you guys just put out a new album out. You're ready to tour. What can people be looking forward to now as far as you? Is it touring and then you do another album, or how do you guys have that laid out?
I think the last concert was last Sunday in the area of Milan, so I think 40 kilometers away. Now we have 2 minutes, 2 months. Sorry, 2 minutes. I have to go. Sorry, 2 month time to sort out things, and we are thinking to release a session box of the UK tour from March. This was 2 days of music in a project,
Wow.
and it is gonna be probably an 8 CD and plus deluxe box thing from the tour. Um, I think we're gonna start writing the new album in December. In November. I'm doing a special guest appearance on the tour of Howard Jones. I play the Scandinavian and German dates for Howard Jones.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I think from 6th November till 20 November, something like this. And it's going to be great. So Howard Jones is a very different part of the electronic music scene, but
Hmm.
it's he absolutely knows what he's doing, and yeah, it's just fine to
He's
have a
he's a huge icon in the electronic music scene too. As far
absolutely
as
yeah,
crossover interests from people that have no knowledge to the deep end,
hmm
he's kind of pulling everything together, which is hard,
absolutely
you
yeah,
know, to get respect on both sides.
absolutely. So we will see how that works, but I guess fine. So we never did it together. Um, yeah, and next year there's a thing big tours in US and South America and a proper German tour next year. But I think around what's normal like March till June, normal tour times. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That'd be awesome. U.S. tour. Me and Dom will have to come and see it.
That
It'd
will
be
be,
awesome.
yeah, for sure.
We'll be
Yeah, it would
there.
be great. I think
That would be
last time we
awesome.
played was it 14? I guess, yeah. Last time, yeah. So
Wow.
we played
Well,
13 the GTA, 14 the West and East Side tour, and then only those only single dates. So I think 12 we played UCLA and New York, but it's gonna be the proper
bigger.
tour since 2014, I guess.
Awesome. I actually have
So
one more question left. I'm sorry, Dom.
go, no,
And
go ahead.
actually, Dom, we'll end on your question. Actually, with such a huge fan base, do you get people that are so stringent and so on top of you about this isn't like the original Tangerine Dream? Like, just is there a back and forth with the fans about like what they think is true Tangerine Dream sound, or you know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Is it, or is it just like more of an open
Yeah.
audience? Because I just there's just two types of people, fans. Even like with, for example, you have people that just love the music because it's open,
Mm.
or you have people
Yeah.
that just they have what they want and that's it.
So you never know. So it worked quite well. So for sure, no one knows what happens after Edgar said there's passed. So we just tried, and yeah, you have people that are saying that it's not Tangerine Dream, but the fun. It's not okay. Fun is not a good word for it, but I'll talk to one of the Sigur Rós guys said he was loving Tangerine Dream until the sequences came in. So he meant the
Yeah.
phase till 73.
Okay.
Yeah? And people said in 74, well, this didn't sound like Tangerine Dream anymore. And so probably it was, yeah, every 3 years was the same discussion. And joining them at the time of the Dante Alighieri Divine Comedy album project is one of the most hated projects in Tangerine Dream's history at all, because it was with opera singers and pop structures and too many acoustic instruments. So I'm kind of used to people who says I know this since 19 years.
Yeah.
This doesn't sound like Tangerine Dream anymore. Um, but I think it's good to have things like Stranger Things and GTA 5. So I think GTA 5 is a very strange thing, because so many young people listen to our music without knowing that it's Tangerine Dream. So
Right.
it was, I think it's 35 hours of music inside. So we produced 35 hours of music
Wow.
for the game.
Yeah.
And I think Tangerine Dream, the name Tangerine Dream appears twice. One in the first minute, and when you finish the last mission after 1.5 years, something. It's unbelievable big game. Um, and I think it's fine. There were always new people. They came
Hmm.
over Stranger Things, or when they hear some music in Doctor Robot, or even on the dark music scene. I did some strange remakes for Lords of Chaos with
Oh, really?
this is yeah the movie about Mayhem, the Norwegian black metal band. And the strange thing about or the yeah, it was always strange. So the guitar player of Mayhem was a big fan of Tangerine Dream, but the 80s movie soundtracks, and it was not possible to find the copyright owners, because one film company bought the other,
Right.
bought the other, bought the other, so no one knows who had the rights to play this. And so they asked me to do remakes of the soundtracks. So the fun thing, another fun thing, it was I think the scene where Euronymous was killed by the bass player. Um, he had a vinyl of The Parker's Mine, which is a Tommy Lee Jones film. Maybe not the best. This is, I think, yeah, you can Google it. It's a very 80s movie, and but the vinyl never exists. So it was always only a tape and a CD version of it. But it's fine to have. It looks much better in the movie to have a vinyl of it, and it's always only a few seconds. So I think it was the first sequence, and then Elisa Gerard's voice from Dead Can Dance was mixed over it. But I also did this, and some people just, and it was a discussion about Mayhem, and some black metal bands were inspired by Tangerine and Klaus Schulze, maybe for the wrong reason. The Teutonic thing, okay, yeah, it's not good, but yeah, but at least they listen to, yeah, maybe they explore something in the music, they can adapt something on it, and soundtracks, and I think it's good for us. So in every country we have a very different average age of the audience. So in Southern Europe and Northern Europe, they're much younger than in Germany. And maybe there was because it's Germany, we didn't have a crowd rock revival. Because there is no krautrock in Germany, we don't like the term for many reasons.
I'll be honest with you. I think it's a weird term myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But but it's, on the other hand, it's okay because it puts you in a great neighborhood. If you listen, so I really like Michael Rother and Neu, and there's great guys, great people, very polite, and so if someone calls you krautrock and puts you in the neighborhood of Neu, I'm very good with it. Right. it's just a compliment. But you know
what I mean.
It's a weird
name for their genre. That's what I'm saying. It's all good art. It's just a weird name to.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but in Spain, they had a big krautrock revival. So there were so many young people who listen to Cluster, Ashra, Tangerine, Neu. Even if I wouldn't consider it as krautrock. So I think Ashra Temple was krautrock in the idea of having the rock approach inside the music. But okay, but yeah. So in Germany, the audience is much older. Okay. Yeah.
Different interest. I'm sorry, Don. Did you have one last question that you want?
I just because I'm such a synth fanatic. What's your go-to synth? If you're gonna just go noodle around, have some fun, and say, I'm gonna go just sit and do this.
Oh, it's hard. It's a simplified answer, but I really love my modular systems. This is the whole world.
I see them.
And to make it easier, there's 14 DI boxes in it to have every single sound recorded separate. So the Quantum is great. Sometimes I like the JD 800 for 90 sound. The Jupiter 8, if you're using Strymon effects on it. So probably for pets, Jupiter 8 and the Strymon Night Sky is unbelievable.
I'm staring at mine right now.
Yeah. But every synth has a good thing. So okay, this is my studio desk, which some racks inside. So even I'm looking straight. Maybe I can. The Waldorf microwave knob. It's probably the most famous knob.
That's it.
in
For sure, you can always tell. I mean, I love my
Blofeld. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really. I think Waldorf is very underrated. Honestly, I mean, in general, it gets kind of overshadowed by others.
And now nerd talk. So I once had the rack version of the Blofeld, and if you have to restart it while the clock was running, it didn't boot. It's still the case.
It's a little finicky. I'm not gonna,
So if you have to restart it, and it was a clock in the MIDI in, so the boot display was freezing. So if and was stopping when the clock came, it doesn't boot. They didn't boot on stage, so it never. So it was deselected for the live gear, but it's a great synth for studio work.
All right, thank you.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all this information with a lot of hopefully new fans you add on to the family of Tangerine Dream, and this has been awesome, man. I want to thank you.
Yeah, many guitars. So what's your favorite guitar?
The red one is Aria Pro 2 Wildcat, I think 83. So it's an old one. I'm a fan of old guitars, used pawn shop guitars because they all sound
Mm.
different.
Yeah, yeah. So my newest, I had the what's the name? The Ed O'Brien signature with built-in Sostaniac.
Yeah,
The Fender,
Danny
yeah,
Axel,
yeah.
yeah,
It's fine. So, I tried. Yeah, this
they're
was
fun.
my
Yeah,
last guitar. There's somewhere. Yeah,
Back there somewhere.
in the back. There's the guitar stands.
I forget you play guitar too, and you play it well. It's funny
Yeah,
because
yeah, but not really. So I'm doing soundscapes.
yeah,
I can do a little bit the edge. I can so Robert Smith is so I'm never bending.
yeah,
So
okay,
but because I never listen to maybe it's fun because maybe that's why I'm King Crimson, Genesis, Cure. There are
yep,
no blue notes in it.
no,
Right.
Yeah, so no bendings, no. I can and I can do tremolo picking,
it's
like the
hard with those
cigarettes.
songs too. To like, you need to do a lot of all the sounds to make it sound like a song because there's so much space between the parts, and it still even
Yeah,
sounds on the guitar that's not really like a riff. It's usually just sounds that build to a song.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
in a way, it's like sequencing. I think on a keyboard, but it's
hmm absolutely.
with strings.
So
It's awesome. Very
yeah,
cool, man. I
great.
want to thank you. I want to encourage everybody to go to the website for Tangerine Dream. Go to Thorsten's website. I'll have both the links there on the YouTube and on the podcast. So thank you, man. It's
Thank you
been
very,
great.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
thank you very much.